Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tim Spencer and Rick Schmidt with the Rural Survival Show on August 13th, the year of our Lord 2022. Hope everybody's having a good day. This will be posted most likely on Sunday, only because of the processing time. And we do post on Rumble and YouTube. Just search the Rural Survival Show. One doesn't work, you can look at the other one. Okay, Rick, I know we've got several things on the agenda today to talk about. Now, I'm going to let you decide where we start.
Yeah. Well, let's start where we started a few minutes ago in our discussion. Let's talk about Stansberry Research, their interview with Harry Dent, a famous economist, and also he has a research firm and an investment firm. If you watch any kind of economic information, chasing market information or trends, you're going to run across people like Gerald Celente and Gregory Mannarino and Harry Dent, and a handful of others that are most prominent. Harry Dent's one of those. Harry Dent did an interview for Stansberry Research a few days ago, and it's called "The Greatest Crash Ever," and it was, in my opinion, fascinating. I think the guy, I don't agree with him on every single point he makes, but I do think he's quite brilliant. He was calling for the economic debacle in 07, 8, and 9. He saw that coming. So he is not without credentials.
No, he's brilliant, Rick.
I think that he is, not just because he agrees with me, but because when he lays out his case, when he tells you how he comes to his conclusions, that's very convincing. So what he is saying here at this point is that this particular crash is going to mimic the crash of, I guess, 29, and 07 in its general formula, its general pattern and makeup. However, this one is going to be much, much worse because
and I agree.
The weight. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, if your house collapses, that's one thing, but if you've got a couple train loads of lumber on top of it when it collapses, your chances of survival are very, very slim. And that's kind of what happened. He did cite the fact that they have created $5 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus in the last 2 years. $5 trillion in physical and $5 trillion in monetary in just 2 years. Now, we're talking about money created out of thin air. We're talking about money that has backed by nothing. It is nothing but a bunch of paper. It's just trash. And but the problem is it's in the system. It's out there. Much of it is in the form, believe it or not, it has taken the form of, it has been poured into the stock market, for example.
Well, yes,
now,
absolutely.
Make no mistake about it. I am not in a position to give anybody financial advice. That's not what I do.
No, me neither.
However, it doesn't mean that I can't say we're about to get hit by a bus. I get to do that. So people with their pension funds and their 401ks and their Roth IRAs or whatever they have, whatever instrument they have chosen to try to prepare for the future, is in my estimation is going to be rendered a complete waste of time.
Right.
I personally don't think you're going to get to keep any of it, much if any. No one knows how much you're going to get to hang on to. But here are a few facts that would support that theory. The baby boom peaked in 07. People started leaving. Boomers started leaving. These would be the babies like me, born as a result of World War II.
Myself also.
Leaving the market, leaving the job market, leaving all the markets. Basically, their consumption is minimal now. They don't have kids or anything like that. So basically,
can I interject one thing here? Real quick. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think this is important. With the loss of the baby boomers in the job market, you have also lost work ethics that have existed from this country's birth up until 2007. And that now you need 3 people to fill one baby boomer's job, and they're not dependable. And there's certainly down with critical thinking. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't think anybody listening to this needs proof of that. All you have to do is have a problem with your phone bill or your Home Depot bill or anything, and you make a phone call, and you get a whack job on the other end who doesn't want to do the job. In other words, they've quitted. They quit a year ago, but they're still there. And all they do is pass you from one person to the other, and eventually they hang up on you.
Right.
When you won't hang up, they hang up on you. Work ethic. I feel sorry for people who are younger than me because I don't know how they're going to solve any problems. So Harry Dent is suggesting that what we have seen in the market lately, I think the S&P and the NASDAQ are both down about 25%. I think that's what he said, something like that.
That's
their
about
peak.
that.
But what they're trying to sell you on CNBS and some of these other shows, Fox Business, is that it's safe to go back in the water. The shark is gone. Harry Dent says no way. He said that he is using an algorithm that suggests there are 3 legs to the crash. This is only the first one. We're right now in the dead cat bounce, where everybody's trying to figure out if they can buy the dip. And he says that is ridiculous. There are 2 more legs to this crash, but you have, believe it or not, if you can believe this, $600 trillion in what I would call toxic assets. They're really nothing more than debt. They're IOUs, they're debt. I don't care what you call it, the stock market, the bond market, ETFs, what do you call derivatives? Oh God, the derivatives.
Well, those derivatives, Rick, will never be paid.
No, it couldn't be. There's not enough money between here and Mars. So what he's looking for ultimately, I'll kind of speed this up because I want to get along to something interesting like green coffee and dog-proof traps, stuff I'd really rather talk about. He's looking for an 86% crash, according to his algorithm in the S&P, and a 92% crash in NASDAQ. And he's thinking Bitcoin is going to go from somewhere between 3,500 and 10,000. However, he's suggesting that it'll take years for the market to recover, for us to rebuild supply chains. And but he suggests that gold, silver, and Bitcoin will recover a lot faster because they are hard assets. They are not debt-based garbage.
Right.
So that's his scenario, and he is thinking that all hell is going to break loose somewhere around the holidays.
I think it's going to be
as
before
some
that.
of us would. Well, it's going to be interesting. Holy days, holidays, holy. Did you ever think about that? Where the word holiday came from?
I got it.
Yeah, those used to be holy days. So although
Now
not
it's
every holy day is.
vacation.
Yeah, now, yeah, all holidays are not holy days, and vice versa. So my wife came home from a walk the other day with a neighbor lady who said, and man, they use eggs. And they have always appreciated when I gave them eggs because I've never seen people eat eggs like these people do. But they've been buying eggs at Sam's, 18 at a time. Now it's up to $12, $12 for 18 eggs. That's expensive for eggs. That's like, it's got to be, I didn't do the math, but it sounds like 75 cents an egg.
Yeah. And here they're still $3 a dozen, not from the store, but you drive down the road and, out on Highway V or whatever, and fresh eggs, $3 a dozen. If our hens aren't laying, that's where I get mine. I pull in there and give my grandson a $20 bill and say, get as many as you can.
Well, yeah, right up until the time they realize they're $18 or $18 for 12 down at the market, in which case that he's going to change his price.
Well, I'm talking about right now, Rick.
Right. So we also have what? Another large lumber company up in the Northwest. In fact, it's in British Columbia, has shut their doors because of everything, fuel and the problems with the truckers, and Canada wanting everybody to get a nasal swab, or if you hadn't been vaxxed, you're not allowed to cross the border with your load. They're basically shutting down the economy. That was the West Fraser lumber company. 147 jobs gone. Here's another interesting situation. Right. Here's another interesting situation. The EU, who has inadvertently pooped in their Easter basket.
Oh, absolutely. But we told them all the way back to December of last year, this is what's going to happen. Everybody was telling them, don't do these sanctions. And
they did. And
they
now their gas and oil. Yeah, well, so here's how they're going to solve the problem. Just like we're going to raise interest rates to 3%, and we're going to somehow undo 20% interest inflation.
Yeah,
they're going to now mandate that all new construction will have to have some solar panels, and that's residential and commercial. Okay, so I'm sorry. In what year?
Problem. The control system form is where the money goes. Solar panels are relatively cheap. Now, to start with, I think this whole thing is wrong. But the charge controllers.
How many years?
Go ahead.
Yeah, how many years is it going to take for them to offset the lack of gas and oil?
They never will.
This is ridiculous.
Because you've got to replace the solar panels every 8 years. So they will never, ever catch up.
Well, so you see what this is. My point about comparing this with the Federal Reserve. My point about comparing this with the Federal Reserve and the interest rate inflation posing is that they're not going to solve the problem this way. They're just posing.
Right.
And it looks like we're almost out of, what is the time there? I can't see.
Well, we've got about
seconds.
10 minutes left, but we can reconnect, Rick.
Oh, fine. All right, good. Okay, so the EU has mandated this, but the thing is that right now the silver market is operating at a deficit. In other words, they're using more than they can refine. They're using more
Right.
than they can mine and refine. So the silver market is going to continue to tighten. Um, any number of economic geniuses are suggesting that right now silver would be your best bet at this moment. Um, uh, Gold, according to Rafi Farber, is leaving the COMEX at an all-time historic pace. So somebody is getting ready for something. Um, and then we have you know, the problem with the worldwide drought. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
we have Lake Mead, and why can I never remember the other
I
lake
can't
there?
either. I should have looked it up
But
after the last show.
I looked, I remembered it 5 seconds after we were finished. But those two lakes out there that basically feed the Southwest, whether it's Las Vegas or whatever it is, are at record lows. The Rhine has fallen to a level not seen since the 1600s. Um, Out in Lake Mead, they're finding all kinds of things like sunken ships and dead bodies.
Yeah,
Um, and now the Rhine River is at historic lows. And let me tell them about the hunger stones, and then you can tell them about the barge problem.
sure.
Now that the river is at a historic level, we're in a 400-year weather cycle. The last time the river looked like this was in the early 1600s. In the riverbank are these large stones, and they were very well carved by somebody who clearly had stone carving equipment, and they're carved along the Rhine in Czech and in German, or at that point maybe Slavic. I don't know. It was Slavic and Teuton. I don't know what that would have been. German and Czech, and says if you're seeing this stone weep, because the last time this happened, the water shortage caused food shortages, and the poor people starved because they
Right.
couldn't buy their way out of it. And so, they're always the ones on the edge. They're always the ones that when panic starts, they get pushed over the cliff first. So, we have that. So if you're thinking that you'd like to wait a little longer to try to put some food aside, I'm going to say you waited too long already. So
Yeah.
it's up to you.
Well, yes and no,
Now, what
Rick.
about that?
No, there's still in
Well,
the
it depends
United
how much money you
States,
have.
right? But in the United States, there is still food available
Yeah.
if you shop around.
Well,
I'm a big
well,
fan
no,
of canned goods.
right.
I'm a big fan of going to the farmer's market and buying what I don't have and canning it. I do that a
Right.
lot. I mean, 3 weeks ago, I canned a 25-pound box of tomatoes, which I paid $20 for. They had good flavor. I actually
Yeah.
tasted one at the farmer's market first. Gave the guy a
Yeah.
quarter and ate one. And actually, I split it with my grandson. But anyway, 25 pounds for $20, considering how worthless cash is, I think is a good deal. But there are ways of doing it right now. And as far as the barge traffic we were talking about, the barges right now are going down the river at only 1/3 capacity. Any less than that, it costs them money. And they've only got 1 centimeter clearance as of last Thursday.
Well, you explained if they're going down at 1/3 capacity, it's so they float higher in the water
Correct.
because the water's
Correct.
shallow.
Yeah, it's the
Right.
draft of the barge
Right. Right.
and
I
also
don't think
draft
draft
of the
is.
tug too. I don't think they can go any shallower. In fact, the one video I saw of a tug pulling 3 barges was or pushing them actually. The amount of silt being kicked up was telling me that prop was hitting the bottom. So I don't think they can
Yeah.
do it much more.
Yeah.
And
So, this show has always been dedicated to the proposition that you should be trying to create your own food, learning to take care of yourself,
yeah, self-sufficiency.
self-sufficiency. And we'll talk about a little bit of gardening here for a couple minutes. You want to change the subject to gardening real quick?
Well, let me restart this thing, Rick.
Here we go. I have some comments about gardening this year. Not everything went my way. The pest pressure on the potatoes was rough. I won't be using the Ruth Stout method again because, as I mentioned, maybe possums and raccoons just root around in the hay,
Yeah,
looking for grubs, and they uncover all your potatoes. From now on, they'll be planted. However, I got a phone call last night. Made me feel good. I got a neighbor up the street who decided at the end of last year that he just couldn't grow tomatoes. He had 2 miserable flops, 2 years where it was just an embarrassment for him.
right.
So I grew him tomato plants, and I gave him at least a dozen plants,
Wow.
and they were in 1-gallon pots. So you're talking about plants that were 1.5 feet tall at least.
Right.
But he called me last night, and he was grateful. He was glowing. He was gushing, and he said, "Thank you for the best tomato season that I have ever had." He said, "What do you think about that Mittleiter growing system?" And I said, "It's good and it's inexpensive, but what he's not factoring in, and what he doesn't really understand at this point, but we'll talk about it, was a lot of it had to do with the type of tomatoes I grew for him. These were hybrid determinate tomatoes. In other words, short lifespan tomatoes here in Zone
Right.
5 in the middle of Missouri. Mine are basically rolling over and dying right now. The
Right.
Romas look absolutely terrible. The Hausenator 2255s are kind of hanging in there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'll probably have to kind of artificially terminate them because I'm seeing a lot of tomatoes, but I'm not seeing the baseball and softball size tomatoes that I was getting. So, clearly these tomatoes are in their last stages of life.
Right.
However, and I'm not sure how I'll do, I have started new tomatoes. These aroma styles, and I also have the Hausenator 2255 here. And we'll see, as I was telling Tim before the show, if I don't get ripe red tomatoes before the frost, and who knows when that will be, I will certainly get a bunch of green tomatoes. And if you've never had pickled green tomatoes,
Oh
they're
man.
crunchy, and you can make them taste like, yeah, you can make them as spicy or as mild as you like. I usually just either put split a jalapeno and either put both halves in or one half. It's up to you. But I was fascinated to see that a guy with less gardening skill than I have. That's not bragging. He doesn't take as much of an interest in it as I do, but he was able to do great,
Good.
which I think was, yeah. And I felt, it made me feel good about myself, because that means these plants don't just work for somebody who's pretty good at gardening. They work for everybody. And here's an interesting caveat, and I'm not going to drag this out, but you know who Enterprise Leasing is?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Well, everyone does. The headquarters is here. They are a client of mine, and I took about 8 plants up, and they were big. I mean, they were 1.5 feet tall, and they were gorgeous. They're beautiful. I took them up there and gave them to some of the folks on the loading dock, and got a call and said, listen, folks are seeing what's going on here. Do you have 8 more? And I'm like, oh, sure. So I got a call about a month later that said, hey, you put in a proposal to do some extra work for us. We're going to approve that. And I see here we've got 4 invoices that haven't been paid. We're going to pay those immediately. So let me tell you something about a tomato seed. You can get great favor from your neighbors and other people, and you can also get your bills paid with these things. So I'm just saying, a little kindness in a world like this goes a long way.
Oh, doesn't
it? Don't over. Yeah, it does. Well, it's getting to be a little on the rare side. I want to mention for a moment my favorite working knife. It is not an expensive knife. I meant to look up the price of this. This is normally in the $75 range. It does not come with this sheath. But what it is got a 3-inch blade, a 3¼ inch blade, which is 1095 high carbon. 1095 would be 1 step below tool steel. Right. It's a little softer, which is fine with me. You have to sharpen it a little bit more often, but it's very flexible, and you don't stand much of the chance of breaking the tip.
Right. And that's a big
what
deal.
It also has, boy, it is. It is a full tang. In other words, the metal goes all the way to the end.
Right.
But the other thing that's super important is the handle. This is canvas micarta. Canvas micarta is actual canvas with. So was that as black as it looked?
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. So let me see what I can do here. Anything?
Oh yeah, much better, Rick.
No. That's a canvas micarta. What they do is they take sheets of canvas and they lay it with epoxy in between. And when they're finished, they press it flat and then they sand it into a shape. But what happens is I'll make sure I get a light next time so that we don't have this problem. What happens is when you sand canvas micarta, the fibers of the canvas actually kind of are exposed. Right. So what happens is when this gets wet, it gets grippy, not slippery, and that is a big deal. There's another real popular handle material. I forget what it's called. It's called like G10, and it is another laminate, epoxy laminate, but it's like plastic or something. And yes, it's weatherproof and waterproof, but when it's wet, you can't hang on to it for nothing. And so it also has a whatever this thing's called, I forgot what that's called. Anyway, the reason that I keep a loop on here, a lanyard, is not for looks. It's because when you drop these things, they become a little more difficult to find. And if you got something on them with a little color,
right,
then you can find it more easily. And this is a Scout Carry sheath,
right,
by Carl Thomas. It's an aftermarket deal. I forget what this thing costs, roughly speaking. That doesn't.
I don't know, but I love the one you got made.
I'll have to. It's the same thing. But what happens is I will not carry a knife vertically on my belt. I don't like the way when you're walking, moving, or working, it keeps banging on your butt or on your hip. It is just in the way all the time. This Carl Thomas sheath is made so that your belt goes through these
Right.
And so it's scout carry, and I carry this in front like this, sideways, and the handle is basically in front of my belt buckle.
Right.
So it's right where I'm right-handed. It's right where my right hand falls. All you have to do is click that and the knife is out. Now, the one thing about these they're ambidextrous. You can use
Right.
it right or left-handed. Well, the only thing I've had a problem with is because it is ambidextrous, this locking system, this loop, if you aren't looking down and you click it in that position, and you think the knife's in, it's not.
Right.
So what I normally do is, are you right-handed, Tim?
Yeah, I am.
Good. Because what I'll normally do is I'll take this side and I'll use crazy glue so that it can't do this.
Right.
It can't rotate over the top on me. So it has to stay in this position right here.
Right.
So that when I do snap it shut without looking down, I know that it's got the choil. It's involving the choil, and then the knife can't come out. 1095 high carbon is probably my favorite knife steel, just because it's reasonably priced and it's very durable.
Yeah.
Catching protein. Tim, you
Yeah.
know what this is?
Yeah. Dog proof.
This
Tuna
This is a
possum
Victor.
trap.
Yep, it's a coon or possum trap. Never misses, never misses. I mean, this thing is just absolutely brutal. I don't have a large set of pliers. I don't have a crescent. No, whatever. Shoot, what do you call those big pliers? But I usually use that to set this trap.
Channel
I have
locks.
seen guys channel locks. I haven't seen guys set them with their hands on the show, and it's got to be just showing off. I don't know how you do that, but what happens is that this is the trigger dog, and it goes into this little device right here,
Right.
and down in the bottom of the trigger, you just fill this with some dog or cat food, and when the coon reaches his hand down in, this is why it's dog proof, reaches his hand all the way down in here in the tube, pulls up on the trigger, this spring grabs his hand, and he can't get out. And these things are what were they, Tim? $75 a dozen. I
Yeah, I
can't
think
remember.
that's what it was.
No,
Sorry about that, Rick. I
75
had to
half dozen.
stand up. I was hurt.
All right. I think it was $75 for 6, but they are just absolutely worth their weight in gold. If you leave some out like I do, every now and then I will just walk up and pour some cheap cooking oil down through the trap, just to keep it all lubed and rust free. Just use some cheap cooking oil that you wouldn't want in your mouth. Canola oil would be fine. Anything. Raccoons and possums do not care about the smell of cooking oil.
No.
One more thing I'll show you before I want to go. We roast a lot of our own coffee, not just because I can make exactly what I like, but because of the price. I can get the best Guatemalan coffee out there for about $5.50 to $6.50 a pound.
Right.
This is how it comes. This was a 5-pound bag of green coffee. Now I'm thinking nobody's going to be able to see what this looks like.
Oh yeah,
with the
we
lighting
can see
situation.
it. No, we can see it.
It looks like little brown green.
There you go.
peas.
Perfect.
Yeah. And they smell kind of like dried grass, kind of like grass. The roasting process, you basically make it up yourself. the idea is to raise the temperature of it to some given degree, and hold it there for a while. And typically, the South American coffees have a noticeably higher sugar content than say Indonesian
Right.
or the African coffees. Typically, they will use those coffees for darker roasts, because if you try to take Guatemalan real dark, the sugar just burns, and so it just kind of carbonizes, and it's not at all what you're looking for.
All right.
But
Question.
anything from light, yeah. If you know what city roast is, it's like a medium roast taken almost to dark, but not quite. So you can go
Right.
anywhere from light roast to city roast with this stuff, and the smell is amazing.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet.
my 30-year-old son, who's been here for a couple days, told me that my coffee is the best he's had in a long time. So there's a learning curve to it. There's a learning curve. I mean, you're not necessarily going to get it right, the first 6 or 10 times. However, if you keep trying, you will get it right. These and But the flexibility, in being able to uh, design your own coffees, and then that your cost savings, you're saving about 50%,
Right.
which is a big deal. The one thing that I did fail to mention here is that the Michelle, can I see those one moment?
Hi, Michelle.
Hey, what's up, Tim?
Not much, sweetie. How you doing?
I can't complain.
Good.
Beautiful day.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Grandkids here.
those
Hi.
are so beautiful.
Anytime this little face points me, I'm
man.
happy.
Oh
Hi.
boy,
This one.
we're being
Or this beautiful baby too.
bombed here.
That's
We're
cool.
being
right.
baby bombed.
That's cool.
Baby bombing. When you have giant zinnias, you can pick bouquets for the house for free.
Those
They
are
want
so
they want 12
beautiful.
or 16. They are something. And this stuff, this Purple Heart, which is, believe it or not, is as black as it looks.
Is
Really,
that the stuff you
really
just throw a piece on the ground and it grows?
that's the stuff. That's
Okay.
the stuff. I understand. I've never been there, but I understand it grows wild in the cracks in the sidewalk in Cozumel,
Well, it does
which
in
I
Florida
understand
too.
is in Mexico somewhere.
Yeah, it grows.
Oh, okay, good.
They got a
Well,
different name for it though. And I guess they've done away with what I call the original name, which was Wandering Jew. And just
well, here they call Wandering Jew another whole nother deal,
really,
but it is another plant that's practically invasive. Yeah, Wandering Jew looks like around here looks like a kind of a weird ivy. However,
okay, different
back
things.
to the back to the point. And I don't believe we mentioned on the show one more last thing. Then, at Sam's, my neighbor, they use a lot of eggs over there. At Sam's, the 18 eggs is now $12. Was it at Sam's? It was, wasn't it? Sam's. So, and with Sam's is where you're supposed to get stuff at a reasonable price, right?
Right.
Well, maybe 18 bucks, or what, $12 for 18 eggs is reasonable now. It's probably going to be 36 by Christmas. If you was to have a few of your own chickens, it might be a great idea. I have 10 right now, and but a couple of them are probably 3 years old. And so what I need to do right now, where the weather's still favorable, is go get myself another 6 or 8 chicks. That way, by the time the weather gets rough, they'll be able to hang. They'll be able to hang with the big chickens. So we'll give that a crank. I think the last time I checked, a chick was still under $3. So, you know,
Well, it
that's,
depends on how you buy them. I would recommend going to Cackle Hatchery, but
well,
give me a call before you do it. Tell me what you want. There's certain breeds that are great, you know,
yeah.
as far as what they put
Oh,
out,
no.
not as far as
Well,
their, not as far as what their attributes are supposed to be, but as far as the healthiness of the chicks at that
well,
point.
we've had any number of chickens here, and most of them I didn't care for. I didn't like the barred Plymouth Rocks. I didn't care for the Rhode Island Reds. I also don't really like black Australorps. We're just going to stick with the Buff Orpingtons.
Yeah.
They're good layers. They got good attitude. They're friendly. They're
Oh, yeah.
reasonably quiet. So we're just going to go with the Buff Orpingtons. And that's what I'll be looking for.
Well, I'll
So
tell you, we've got some buffs that have adopted my granddaughter. And
yeah,
if she sits down, there's literally 3 or 4 of them sitting in her lap, and I'm not exaggerating. They try to follow
no,
her in the house, you know, if they can.
that's out. That's out. Unless you know a house trained chicken, that's just not going to happen.
Actually, the only way I've seen them trained at all is to not crap in their lap. But if you put them on the floor, they're going to crap all over.
Wrong. So yeah. So outside, that's an outside toy, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
All right. Well, that's about all I have.
Well,
at
can you
this
stay
moment,
on
then.
the line just a little bit longer?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Well, I want to tell people that we are now distributors of AMSOIL. Okay. And
I
all you
love
gotta
AMSOIL.
do, oh, I love it. You know, that new car I just bought, Rick,
Yeah.
it had a little bit of miles on it when we bought it, but it was still considered new.
Right.
It was a loaner car at the
Right.
dealership. Soon as I got it, I took it up to our local mechanic because I can't do it anymore. I put a Wix extended life
Right.
filter on it, and I drained all the oil and put in AMSOIL 5W20, I think it's what the car called for. All right. Now, here's the
Sure.
thing. Instead of every 2,500 or 3,000 miles, I don't have to mess with that car as far as oil until I get to 12,500 miles. And then all I do is change the
Yeah.
filter. Now, when I get to 25,000 miles, then I change the oil and the filter. And
Right.
the amount of money I'm saving is just incredible.
You want to stick with the Wix filter. That
Yeah.
is probably, in my opinion, the best filter. And I think most people know that. You can use Fram and these others, but the Wix filter.
I like the one that says,
it-
you know, it's good for 12,500 miles. It's got an
Well.
X on the end of the number.
You're right. That's yeah. The Wix filters have like some kind of cotton material in them, and they just do a great job.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you know, to your point, I got tired of paying large amounts of money for two-stroke oil, the two-stroke oil additive. And what I did was, and
They
this was
sent
kind of
me a
weird.
shirt, Rick.
I saw that. I was wondering what you were doing with that.
Yeah,
The
part of the dealer kit.
great product. What I did was I bought. Now check this out, because I immediately got kickback from my family. I bought an XPS racing motorcycle, full synthetic, two-stroke oil.
Yeah.
When I was a little leery, I put it in. I've got a line trimmer or a weed whip that's $400, and it is a Husqvarna, and it is. I love this machine. And I was a little worried about using this stuff, but what actually happened was the thing probably picked up another 500 RPM because of the
Wow.
lack of friction. It actually kind of scares me when you pull the trigger and hang on to it. The thing sounds like it's going to explode. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
sounds like a
it just
jet
runs.
engine.
It is just kind of spooky, but but you got to get used to it. But I'm just saying the full synthetic oil is absolutely the way to go. And then immediately when I showed my family, the guys, I said, look, this is what I'm doing with my 2-strokes now. They sent me back a picture of 2-stroke AMSOIL additive. And this guy goes, no, this is the way to go. So AMSOIL does have oil for 2-stroke motors, like
yes, they do.
chainsaws and line trimmers and all that.
And next month I plan
with
on
the
buying
cost of
some.
these machines. Yep. With the cost of these machines, you are well advised to use very good oil in your gasoline. I don't want to run you out of time, but I have been trying an experiment. I'm not sure where I'm going with this at this point, but I use full synthetic oil in my vehicles.
Right.
Lucas makes a what's called a top cylinder lube, and it's an oil that you put in the gasoline, and it makes the gasoline mist a little slicker, and it has the effect of lubricating your piston cylinders, your cylinders and your rings.
Right.
Normally they have to get lubed only from the bottom, but there have been studies that prove that using correct good oil underneath the piston, that's where the oil normally is, and also an upper cylinder lube in your gasoline extends motor life considerably. And for those people who might have a lot of small engines, like cemeteries where they've got all kinds of machines running around, their mechanics swear by the stuff. But I thought to myself, what is really in here? I mean, am I just putting a little motor oil, in the gas? So
Right.
I started putting full synthetic oil. Now, I don't do this yet. I'm not finished with the experiment. Putting full synthetic oil, 1 ounce per gallon in my gasoline. I haven't seen any, not for my vehicle, but for my small motors, like
Right.
like my lawnmower and stuff, anything 4-stroke machine. I'm using a little oil in there. Let's see where it goes. Also, the other thing that I've done in the past with small 4-strokes, like my pressure washer,
Right.
is put it away with 2-stroke fuel in it, because the 2-stroke oil in your gasoline has a lot of winterizing effects. It has
Right.
certain carb cleaners and other things.
And that's the reason I only use when I put them away for the winter, I use that Husqvarna 2-stroke oil.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And that of course that's all synthetic, and that is no more expensive than other 2-stroke oil. And it
Yes.
seems to work great.
Yes.
Any buffalo we hear?
I'll pick her up, put her on your lap.
I'll
Rick.
be right with you. Yeah.
But anyway, folks, I'd like
Here's
to encourage you to visit ruralsurvival.life. That's ruralsurvival.life. We've got both sponsors there, and we have people that we retail for. There's banners and all. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in another one of those rocket stoves, Rick, which I doubt if you are, but if you are, they have actually caught up with demand. They are producing about 60 stoves a week. So, they've got
Those
about
guys
10 people working now. And
Oh, my
those
goodness.
things are
Okay.
going international.
Oh,
I mean, they are really selling quick. But folks, if you want to heat your house very cheaply,
heck of a product.
yeah. If you want to heat your house very cheaply, order now. There's an order link on ruralsurvival.life. I've got one. Rick's got one. The fact is, about everybody I know's got one after they've seen mine. The Generation 2 stove is out. I've still got a Generation 1, but they said they're going to trade me out. I don't know when that's going to happen. But anyway, if you want to heat this winter, you better order now because you won't get the stove until January. That's how many they're selling. 99.5% efficiency according to the EPA. Not them, but the EPA says that. In fact, they had a shipping difficulty because the people that the EPA requires them to order the tags from that have to go on it by law were way behind on their orders. So they actually had to hold about 100 stoves for 3 weeks waiting for the tags to pop rivet on. But full production going now.
That's amazing. Interesting product. Well,
Yeah.
that is that's all I have for this week. How about a prayer then?
Thank you. Please.
Holy Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the divine power of God, cast into hell Satan and all of the other evil spirits who wander through the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Amen. Can you stay on just a second more? So I
Yep.
can offer a Protestant prayer, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Okay. Heavenly Father, I come to you in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son. I ask that the people that have listened to this podcast get something out of it that will benefit their lives. I ask for protection and safety for all of our listeners and all of their families. In Jesus Christ's name, I humbly ask this, Father. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, folks.
All right, Doc.
We're going to call this quits for today. I'll get this posted as quickly as we can. I thank you for listening. Please pray for us, but because we are absolutely praying for you. Please pray for your nation. And I might get in trouble for saying this even on Rumble, but please pray for the end of the elder abuse of President Biden. So we're going to call it a night, and we hope you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hasta mañana.